Hello, Justin. Thank you for joining us today to share your experience about teaching English in China. It is nice to meet you. So let us start with you telling more about yourself, like how old you are, where you're from originally, and where you currently teach.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm 28 years old. I'm from a city called Rochester in New York State, United States.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, I am teaching in Beijing, the capital of China, and I've been here for about 5 months.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So how did you actually decide to come and teach English in China? Why exactly China, first of all, and how did you come up with such a decision?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I chose China because the opportunities here are there's a lot of opportunities here.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of countries to go to teach English, and there's some really good ones along with China, but China is probably the biggest in terms of the market and how many teachers they need. So there's a lot of job security here, and I also have an interest in Chinese culture. Part of the reason that I like China is because I used to actually teach Chinese Kung Fu in New York, so I sort of already was familiar with China a little bit, and it was kind of an easy step to decide to come here specifically.
Great. And as for your application for a teaching job, if you applied for with several companies, why did you exactly choose work and live in China? If you did apply with several of those.
Well, I looked at some other companies, but I only applied with work and live in China. The reason that I ended up choosing work and live in China was because a lot of it was really because of the videos that you guys have on the website, where I can see real people who are actually in China teaching. And being able to talk to some of the teachers that are with Work and Live in China really helped convince me that it was an okay thing to do. So.
Great. Can you describe the process for you in China, like during the first few days when you arrived? What happened? What support was provided to you?
Yeah, sure. The first day I arrived in Beijing, I was pretty much immediately brought to a hotel, which was nice because it's an 18-hour flight. So I went to a hotel. I stayed there for probably a day or two. In the meantime, the guy that came and picked me up from the airport, he brought food with him and water and everything else. So that was really nice. I really didn't have to do anything. I just basically got in the car with the guy and we went to the hotel, and then he said, "Hey, I'll see you on this day at this time," and that's when I went to my school. So
Okay.
it's pretty easy.
As for the school itself, can you describe your first week teaching English in the school? Like what the process is? Are there any difficulties? Is it hard to teach English in China?
Sure. I mean, my first week was okay. I was really excited to be in China. Everything was brand new to me, so it was pretty fun. In the beginning, it was a little different than what I'm used to in the United States because the way the culture is in China, expectations at work can be a little bit different. They're a little bit more. They do things in certain steps and very exactly. So I had to get used to that at first, but after a little while, it was really no problem.
Well, speaking about this cultural differences, what were you impressed with the most? What was the most like awkward thing, maybe, or more of a cultural shock to you, if there was any?
Well, I think like the biggest thing that I've noticed between Americans and Chinese are probably, I would say the biggest is that Americans are very much individuals and are very not unique, but focused on their own personalities and independence, whereas Chinese are more communal and more of like concerned about the group and everyone at large. So it was a little weird at first because I felt like maybe I wasn't like valued as much or something for who I am, that kind of thing. But ultimately, it's just a different way of thinking about how you fit into the world. So that was probably the biggest thing that surprised me when I got here.
As for teaching English in China, is it hard to do? Would you give any advice to those who hesitate coming to China to teach English?
To be honest, it's not hard. No, it takes effort though. It's not a walk in the park necessarily, but if you try and it's something you want to be good at, it's not hard to be good at. A lot of it is really just working with kids, and kids are really the same all over the world. You know, if you can be fun with kids and make them laugh a little bit and still be a teacher and be a good teacher, it's really all you need to do. It's not very complicated.
Okay, great. Can you tell us a little bit about your apartment that was provided to you as part of the job?
Yeah, I have a really nice apartment. I mean, I'm in Beijing where things are pretty expensive, but in my situation, it's not expensive for me at all. I share it with a roommate. We have a two-bedroom apartment here, and it's really nice. I'm in a very nice neighborhood. It's safe, clean, usually quiet. There's a lot of construction going on right now, but yeah, I love the apartment. That's probably one of the best parts about being here, actually.
Is the school too far away from the apartment?
Not really. It's about average. I mean, I'm about an hour away on the subway, and I could have lived closer probably, but I'd have to get a smaller apartment because it's more expensive. So
I see.
I chose to be a little bit further away to have a larger apartment.
As for the cost of life in China, how would you describe it, and is it expensive to live in Beijing, and how much do you usually spend per month?
It's really not expensive. I mean, I'm very comfortable. I really don't, want for much. I think per day I spend anywhere from 50 to 100 RMB a day. Depends on if I'm trying to save money or not. I mean, I can do it for as little as 30 RMB a day, and that's for food, subway. I smoke cigarettes, so I buy cigarettes, which are really cheap here. Everything is really reasonable, though. The food's not expensive. The subway is like, in American dollars, it'd be like 75 cents to get across the entire city. So yeah, it's very reasonable.
Great. How long have you got on with the Chinese language so far? Like, do you learn it right now, and do you find it difficult?
I mean, I really love foreign language, and I'm typically a fast learner. Chinese I don't think it's all that hard. I think that it's really just about having the time and dedicating the time to learning it. Even without doing that, I really haven't spent much time studying. Even without that, I've still picked up enough to survive and to be able to order some food, to be able to, ask people basic things. But it's definitely worth learning. I mean, if I could go back, I would have definitely learned more before I came, especially about ordering food. If you like it a certain way, if you don't like spicy food, you should learn how to say that. Just little things like that. But overall, it's not that bad.
What applications do you use in China generally? Like, what are the most useful to your opinion for a foreigner?
The number one thing is probably the translation app. I use one, I don't remember what it's called. It's got a red logo, something like Udao or something. But it's really easy to figure out which one to use. Your coworkers here help you a lot, and that's probably the number one app I use, just to be able to talk to people about things that I need. Other than that, I use an app called Kugo, which is like for music, and then I use Baidu Maps a lot as well. So.
As for your free time outside of the classroom, what do you usually enjoy doing in Beijing, or where do you usually go? How do you spend your free time?
Well, there's a lot to do in Beijing. I mean, I'm usually cooking in my free time. I like to eat food that's familiar to me sometimes, so I'll spend some of my free time cooking for work the next day and bring my lunches. Other than that, I'm trying to get to the gym more, things like that. In the past, I've gone to sports bars and stuff. I still have to go see the Great Wall. The Beijing Zoo is supposed to be awesome, so those are kind of the things on my list right now.
As for the last question is for those who still hesitate coming to China or considering this option, would you recommend this experience? Would you recommend coming to China and teach English? And maybe anything you would share you would like to know before you came there, like any piece of advice?
I mean, I would say if you're looking to teach overseas, China is really the best place to do it, I think, or one of the best places. I mean, I don't think there should be any. When I was first coming, I was a little bit worried. I was worried about the government, and I was worried about, all these things that sort of you hear about in the news in Western media, but really now none of that is a concern to me. So I would say, like, anybody that's worried about China specifically, like, don't worry about it. It's extremely safe here. It's clean. People are friendly. I've had no issues. As far as if I wish I knew something before I came, not really. Maybe just the cultural differences about work. Just knowing that they're a little bit more exact about how they do things and that sort of thing. And then culturally, they're not as direct as Americans might be. They tend to avoid confrontation or what might be perceived as confrontation. So sometimes you'll be at work and you might not know that someone has an issue with your performance, and then you find out, but that's also what working and live in China is there for, and that really helps a lot. So that's about it.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing this experience. It was my pleasure to talk to you, and I really think our customers will enjoy this video. So thank you again.
Yeah, no problem.